Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is my vocation. It was a long road to get me to my vocation, but I thought maybe sharing this. I know a lot of people who watch this are already married or even religious watch this. And so I just wanted to share with those who aren't married, maybe give them some inspiration, as well as, I don't know, if you're like me, I just like hearing people like their vocation stories. I love hearing priests and religious and married people how God told them, who to marry and all that, or how God led them. So today that's what I'm going to be sharing with you. So my mom got married right out of high school, and from that point on she had child after child, and she had 8 children. So for me, that's what I want. If you know me, I just love my mom. I think she's amazing. I just wanted to be just like her, all that. So I wanted to get married right out of high school, and it's interesting because I didn't date a whole lot in high school, and actually my senior year, I fell in love with a guy who was in college at the time, and stuff, and we talked marriage and all that, and just turned out it wasn't God's will for us. And so I was devastated because that was my plan, was to get married right out of high school and to live my vocation. I wanted at least a dozen kids. I just love children, love everything about kids. And so it was very hard for me, the breakup and that kind of thing. But definitely looking back, I see God's hand in it. So then, I discerned God's will. I still didn't date a whole lot after that. I gave a year of my life. I want to say I was 20 at the time. So if you know me, I was 30 when I got married. So my whole 20s was like trying to figure out my vocation and that kind of thing. So when I was 20, I gave up dating for a year, and I kind of gave that year to God, and I said, okay, God, do you want me to be a religious? Do you want me to be a nun? What is it that you want me to do? I know my desire is to be married and to have children and all that, but I ultimately want to do your will. Maybe that's, being a nun, and that kind of thing. So I discerned, and I looked into some religious orders. I was working with Little Sisters of the Poor at the time, and so the mother, or the sister who was on my floor, I talked to her about my vocation and that kind of thing. And of course she encouraged me to be a sister, but she was, very sweet about it, and, no pressure or anything like that. So the year came and went, and after that year, I still didn't really have anything that I was like, okay, this is what I'm called to do, kind of thing. And so I ended up traveling with Net Ministries, which is funny because Net Ministries is their organization that, puts on retreats for high school kids, and then you pretty much just do that for a year, and you travel with, I think there were 11 people on my team, and so you travel in a van with, boys or men and women and that kind of thing. So I did that, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll find my husband there. Had high hopes that maybe that's why God's calling me to do Net Ministries. And so it turns out that was not God's will. I had a great year. It was a hard year and all that, but it was a great year. But no vocation out of there. We did do some work with the CFR brothers in the Bronx in New York. And so I thought maybe God was calling me to that, because I just was on cloud 9 when we worked with them. Oh my goodness, I fell in love with St. Francis, and I just loved everything that the CFRs stand for. I just felt like they had such an awesome calling that God was calling them to. And so I discerned that a little bit, and I actually applied, and they just felt like it wasn't a fit for me. And I was okay with that, because I really wanted to be, a mom and a wife kind of thing. So So then, I traveled. I should tell you that, I am not somebody who just sits and waits. I definitely wanted to pursue my vocation. I had this aching in my heart to be married and have children, but I am also one to keep going. What's the next thing I can do for God? What can, I have a service heart. I really want to do God's will. I want to pursue him. I want to do that kind of thing. So my whole 20s, I hate to say it, but I was looking for my vocation, and I really wanted my vocation. I dated a lot of guys, a lot of awesome guys. They were very devout Catholic, really great. They were wonderful. I was even engaged before, but I just knew that wasn't my husband. I wanted this gentleman to be my husband because he was such a wonderful guy. He was a devout Catholic. On paper, he was everything that I had been hoping and praying for. But there was just something in my heart that was telling me that this was not my vocation. And so I broke off that engagement, and I was devastated. I was so sad. I really was. It was one of the hardest things that I had to do. And obviously, looking back now, I see God's hand in it. It was really great and stuff. But, I dated a lot of men, and it was not just to have fun, but it was more to, like, I really truly wanted, hopefully this guy is it, maybe this guy is it, and that kind of thing. So I definitely dated a lot. I would say that looking back, I wish I wouldn't have dated that much, because I just wish I would have just trusted God and just sat where I was and just kind of let God lead me. I worked in Hawaii for 2 years with a Catholic ministry out there called In Him Ministries. And while I was there, God kind of gave me a vision, like, just something in my mind that I thought about. And I feel like it was God who kind of gave that to me. And what it was is he brought me, I was walking towards him, and I have a huge devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And so I was walking towards him, and I took out my heart as I was walking towards him and gave him my heart. And I said, God, I give you my heart. And so God took that, and he took my hand and he led me to a throne, and he asked me to sit there and just to wait, and now looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's what I was supposed to do, was just wait for him to bring my husband to me, instead of constantly looking, is he my husband? I just spent my 20s pretty much looking for, which is this guy my husband? Is this guy my husband? And stuff. So anyway, long story short, so then I moved to Virginia Beach, and I was involved with a very awesome Catholic young adult group there in Virginia Beach at the time. And I started dating a guy, and he was a great guy, another really awesome Catholic guy. I had a lot of other very Catholic men who kind of were interested in me as well. And so in the back of my mind, I always had like a backup plan, is kind of why I'm telling you this. I always had a backup plan, like, okay, if, me and this guy doesn't work out, then I always have this guy to fall back on, and that kind of thing. And God just pretty much spoke to me, and he said, Heather, if you trust me, then you wouldn't have a backup plan. There would be no backup plan. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just stopped in my tracks. I was, I think, 28 at the time. And no, 29 at the time. And I said, oh my goodness, God, you are so right. Here I've been saying, I trust in you, Jesus, I trust in you, Jesus, I trust in you. And God pretty much told me, you are not trusting in me, and that kind of thing. So I broke up with the guy that I was with, and just kind of gave it to God. It was very hard. He was another great guy, and gave it to God and said, God, I need to fully trust in you. I need to have no backup plans. You are my plan. And so I need to trust that you're going to bring my husband to me. Because at the time I was a nanny. I did things with the young adult group, but I knew all of the guys, and I was pretty sure they weren't my husband, kind of thing. So I'm like, God, you're going to have to bring him to one of the events, or I'm just never going to meet him, because I don't go anywhere else. You know, it's either I'm nannying or I'm at, you know, a young adult event kind of thing. And sure enough, so 2 months later, which probably doesn't seem like a long time, but for me, at the age of 29, I was just aching in my heart. God, I want my vocation. I want to have a dozen babies. Like, you know, like, why, like, am I not called to marriage? You know, and I had to kind of give that up to God. Say, maybe that's your plan, that I am not called to marriage. And I think when I fully, completely gave that to Christ, that is when he brought Eric, my husband, to me. And it was awesome. I was at St. Gregory's young adult group, and it was a Bible study, you know, and, you know, all my friends were there and stuff. And I just had a weird feeling that night. You know, I put a little more makeup on and, you know, got a little more dressed up than usual, which, you know, I was just like, okay, I don't understand this kind of thing. And so, so I go, and the place is packed. There is literally only one place I can sit. So I didn't get to sit by all my like really close friends. I sat, you know, in the back. And it turns out that it was my husband that I sat next to. And it was the most interesting thing. I can, you know, he ended up telling me about, you know, like we ended up talking afterwards, and I was like, I just met the most amazing man that I've ever met. And that's what I always prayed for, that I would marry the most amazing man that I would ever meet. And to this day, he is that man. Like, he is so amazing and my best friend and so wonderful. You know, obviously we have our ups and downs, like any marriage, you know, that kind of thing. But it was so neat to see God, you know, bring him and me together kind of thing. And I remember I went to my room that night, you know, after, and I said, I just met the most amazing man that, you know, that I've ever met, and he is way too good for me, pretty much is what I wrote. I still have it in my journal. And I just said, God, I would love to marry somebody just like that, though, you know. And so come to find out, that was my husband. Like, it was, you know, I still think about it, and I still tell him, you're the most amazing man I've ever met. Like, you just blow me away. I just love him, you know. Tell him all the time how I just love being married to him and that kind of thing. So, and so, you know, long story short, we dated, and he knew right away. And I had hesitation just because I didn't want to marry the wrong person. I wanted to marry who God wanted me to marry. So I had a lot of anxiety and fear about it. But then I did a novena to the Sacred Heart. Like, God, is this what you want, or is this what I want? You know, and God pretty much gave me his blessing, you know, and just gave me peace about it and that kind of thing. And so within like a year, I think it was like a couple weeks after a year, we were married, happily married. And so that's kind of my vocation story. It's so amazing when you put your trust in God, what he will do. And who knows, if I wouldn't have put my trust in him, if I would have had all these backup plans, I still might not be married. You know, I don't know, but I just encourage you, if you're in that right now in your life, to pray. Pray for your husband, pray for your wife, pray for your vocation, and truly, honestly, give it all to God, fully and completely, without hesitation, you know, and just say, God, I want your will. What is your will? Is this your will? Kind of thing. And God will honor that. He will so honor that. And so I just encourage you to, if you are not in your vocation yet, to pray for your vocation and trust God and leave it there. So anyway, I hope this made sense. I hope this helps somebody out there. And if not, I hope you enjoyed the story. All right, talk to you later. Bye.